Welcome back to another episode of We Don't Know What to Watch, and with me, as always, is the incredible, the wonderful, the superb, the Nosferatu to my Dracula, Kyle Mulford, and I'm Noah Seddon. How you doing, Kyle?
Avon to drink your blood.
All right, and we're back for this one. This is our one of our special giant size specials with a giant size Halloween special. We haven't done one of these in a while, and because we're recording this in October, it is time for Spooky Month.
Spooky month, spooky. I hope everyone out there is watching all sorts of spooky movies. We will drop this on, I will edit this and drop it on October 31st. So it'll be Halloween when this will show up on the interwebs.
And what's fun about these episodes is that we can actually go a little bit more in depth with these, a little more time to kind of let it sink in. And what movie are we going to talk about today, Kyle?
We are going to talk about Near Dark. Very near dark.
Near
Not
Dark
quite dark, just
from
near dark.
1987, directed by Catherine Bigelow.
Yes, this has been one of my really want to watch for a long time. And let's get into that because this is a movie that you can't find anywhere.
It is annoyingly hard to find. It was on I think the first time I saw it was when it just like was on Criterion Channel for like a month, and then somehow just like, and I just saw someone on Twitter was like, guys, go watch this movie. It's really awesome. It's rarely ever streaming anywhere. Go watch it right now. So I did, and I was like, this is something special.
Yeah, I went and looked and it is not streaming anywhere. So unfortunately for anyone listening to this, you really have to hunt this down. It's not streaming anywhere. You can't buy it or rent it on Vudu. You can't buy it or rent it on Amazon. I looked for like the Blu-ray and or DVD, and the Blu-ray on Amazon costs $119.
Yeah, so it's expensive to boot, even if you do try and find it. I was able to, so we ended up watching my DVD copy, and I was able to track this down through like half price of books, and they had like a coupon or something. I was like, yeah, okay, so this turned the price down from like 100 something bucks to like $40, which is more expensive obviously than a good one, but that's still a good deal for this hard to find gem.
Yeah, so you still, I mean, even with a discount, you had to pay $40 for the DVD.
Yeah, from like a 2002 DVD release.
And what I have to say is really bothered me a DVD without closed captioning.
That is annoying, but it does have like a second disc for special features. So what the heck?
Yeah, yeah, and I did watch the interviews on there. Um, but I'm one of those like I got in the habit years ago of watching movies with closed captioning, and if I'm at home watching a movie, I have to have the closed captioning on. And there's I just I can't watch them without. And this one was one of those where like the audio. That's one thing I will say is I wish it wasn't so expensive because like the audio was hard to hear the dialogue, and that's why I was so mad that they didn't put subtitle like on this DVD.
Yeah, it might just
That's
not be
not a
in the
knock
right
on the
mix.
movie. I think it's the transfer is what it was.
Hmm.
So
So
because there was
yeah, this is definitely something that could use a really nice premium release. I mean, the DVD package is pretty good, but come on, I want my Shout Factory to get in on this because they always do great stuff.
yeah, I bought the Shout Factory 1988 Blob that I watch every year. It's got like a bunch of interviews on it. It's got like 3 audio commentaries on it.
Hmm.
um, no, that's a, yeah. I think now finally seeing this movie, and yes, we both recommend this movie because this is an episode of We Do Know What to Watch because we chose this one.
Yeah, that's what's nice part about our specials.
And I can say that, yeah, this one really deserves um, to have a good transfer and be affordable for people. It's one of those where I'm just not sure why isn't this when it's got such a huge cult following too. Why has this not been released on anything? It's not like it's a small movie, and she has only become a bigger director since then.
Yeah, she's won an Oscar. She was the first woman to win Best Director.
Yeah, and this is her first solo directed movie because she did direct Willem Dafoe in a biker movie called The Loveless, which I have seen. It's just an interesting little low budget biker
Mhm.
movie from like the late 80s. But yeah, this was her first solo director movie and directed movie, and the producer on this. Uh, it was fun because I watched the interview on your DVD, and he said that he gave her 5 days to prove herself and said, if I feel like you're not able to do this on your own, then we're going to take over and you're off. And well, she finished the movie. So, and she proved that, yes, she is a good director.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, she did go on to do Point Break, for crying out loud. Come on.
And a million other things. So,
Yes, but Point Break.
oh yeah.
uh, this one has a, let's get Rotten Tomatoes. It's 88% with 50 critics, 74% with 24,787 users. How have that many people found this movie?
Maybe. I mean, maybe they found like bootleg version somewhere, or just a
Yeah,
deep.
I'm one of those. I'm not, I like, I can't pay like that much money for a movie. So I'm one of those. I've been looking for this movie for like years and years and have never seen it. So I'm glad that you found it and were able to get it, fairly cheap.
Yeah, some movies, if I can find like a decent used copy, I just like, I need to own this. Stuff like this and stuff like Dead Alive, which was hard to find for a long time too.
Yeah. So what is this movie about?
It is about a young man living in Oklahoma. He's kind of like a more modern day cowboy. And then he picks up a girl. They have some fun times together. She bites him, and whoops, he's a vampire. And then he gets abducted by this group of kind of outlaw vampires as they travel around doing vampire stuff with a soundtrack by Tangerine Dream.
But here's the kicker is you said vampire about like 4 or 5 times there, and not once in this movie did they use the word vampire. And I kind of like that because it doesn't get into the lore of the vampire and the exposition and the explaining things and it's more just these people live at night, they're allergic to the sun, they'll burn up,
They'll
they
drink
drink
blood.
they drink blood. You never see anything else like crosses, garlic, mirror, like no reflection in mirrors. It's almost like it's more of a disease or a drug than it is a vampire, and it even goes into that with like the end. And yeah, and again, we do spoilers on this podcast with the fact that you can cure it with a blood transfusion.
Mhm.
So it's almost more of just a disease than it is like a supernatural thing. Although
Yeah,
it is, because you find out that some of them have been, the girl has only been for like 4 years, but then you have, let's talk about this cast.
yeah.
Lance
This is
Henriksen as
Lance
Jesse Hooker.
Jesse Hooker. He's kind of the lead vampire. Then we've got Bill Paxton as Severn. He's kind of like the sadistic one
Just crazy and
with his
wild.
spurs.
Yeah. You got Diamondback, played by Jeanette Goldstein. And if those three names sound familiar, just a couple years earlier, a year earlier, they were all in a small movie called Aliens, directed by Bigelow's future husband, James Cameron.
Future ex-husband.
Future ex-husband. Yeah, I found that interesting. I saw online on trivia. This is why you can't always trust the IMDb trivia. It said that James Cameron recommended, hey, we've got a ready-made cast here. Why don't you use these guys? Well, the way they told it in the interview, and all of them were saying the same thing, is that Bigelow came to each of them and said, she went to Paxton and said, hey, I'd like you to read the script. And he read it and really dug it. So he passed it on to Lance Henriksen. And then it got to, and then they went for Jeanette and, they ended up, and then, and, and the way, what Bigelow herself, talks about it, she's like, I went to James Cameron. I said, I'm kind of stealing like a chunk of your cast. Like, I just don't want it to seem like I'm just grabbing a cast from another movie and using them myself, but this is how it worked out. He's like, yeah, do it. If they want to do the movie, do it. Which I thought was kind of cool.
hmm And then we've got Homer, who's been a vampire for probably a long time, but he's stuck in the body of like a 10-year-old.
Yeah, and this is apparently he's played by Joshua something Miller,
hmm
and apparently he's the son of some actor named Jason Miller. And there was a movie that also came out this year called Lost Boys with Jason Patrick, who is the kid who played Homer. Jason Patrick is his half brother in real life. So
Huh.
they both had a vampire movie in 1987.
That's funny.
Yeah, so this cast is great, and Lance Henriksen. You may remember him from such movies as The Visitor. See our back catalog.
Or Pumpkinhead.
Or Pumpkinhead. I loved watching the interview with him because he's crazy. Like he goes into like his character so much that like he had an entire backstory of how he was turned, and and you know he's old enough that there's just one line in the movie where he's like, "How old are you?" You know, he's like, "I fought with the South." He's like, "It's like with the South." He goes, "We lost." As so like he fought in the Civil War, and that's about the only backstory you get in there. But like he personally had an entire backstory for his character and how
That's
he
cool.
got turned and everything, and then he even wanted to look for his character, so he went and got like fake fingernails that were like real long, and he used pliers to like break the ends of them and everything. And then he would in between takes and stuff, he would go out and drive around out in the country, and they told a story about how he was driving and Bill Paxton was in the car, and Henriksen was in character, and a cop pulled them over, and he made the cop so tense that the cop backed up and like had his hand hovering over his gun, and finally said, "Okay, you guys just go, but like no more, don't speed or anything anymore. Just go."
That's great.
But yeah, it was a real fun cast. And then we have the main lead played by Adrian Pasdar, who I never knew who he was until Heroes, and he did an okay job. And then his dad was played by Jack Death himself, Tim Thomerson. I love Trancers. um, so it just a fun cast, and just a cool story. Bigelow and I can't remember the other guy's name. Something Reed
Hmm.
wrote this movie, and they kind of gave it a mix of Western and vampire, because apparently horror was big at the time. So they didn't want to do just straight Western, and it really works in that sense.
Yeah, because so much of it is them just kind of traveling around the back roads, going, avoiding, sleeping at night. A lot of great shots of like golden hour shots of, especially sun coming down, sun going up.
Yeah, and they're kind of like an outlaw group, like in the Wild West. Only they're an outlaw group of vampires
They travel
and
around and do vampire stuff.
kill people for their blood.
Hmm.
But there's also like there's this real sympathy for them too, because they have this like bond with each other, because some of them have been hanging out together for hundreds of years. You have you know Lance Henriksen playing like the father type figure, and then Jeanette is kind of the motherly figure, and you got the young boy who's like, it's like being a full grown man and stuck permanently stuck in a little boy's body. Because he's super old too, but like he's in a kid's body. And then the girl is almost like the older sister figure of the group.
Hmm.
And
There's
yeah, the
crazy Uncle Bill Paxton.
crazy Uncle Bill Paxton. And I have to say, after watching this film, that that might have jumped up into my top most favorite Bill Paxton performances of all
Yeah,
time.
I still miss him.
Yeah, I do too. That was a sad day when he passed away.
Hmm.
There is a bar scene that was absolutely wonderful, and it's kind of the set piece of the movie. It's really a
Yeah, this is a relatively low budget movie, so they don't have a lot of big action moments. There's a few spaced throughout the film, but relatively sparse. But yeah, the best scene, I guess, is not a lot going on. It's just vampires enter a bar and let's see what happens.
and yeah, and and they're trying to get Caleb, played by Adrian Pastar. They're trying to get Caleb to kill because they
It's kind
didn't
of
want
the
to turn him. They just want to feed and move on to and burn it down and move on to the next town. Feed and lather, rinse, repeat. And they're
but
trying to get him to feed because she turned him instead of killing
yeah,
him.
the girl May, and then he doesn't. First, he didn't understand what's going on. First, he almost burns up in the sun until he's abducted, and then he almost starves until he drinks some of the girl May, her blood. And we've got a great sequence of like, all right, so this is kind of what they do as they quote unquote go hunting First, we got Homer, who's got a bike, and then he acts like he's like a kid who just got hit by a car and tells someone to stop and get him. So then he bites them. And then we got like Bill Paxton, who goes around like hitchhiking looking for chicks in like a really goofy outfit. With and he's got
Hey, all
great
right.
and he's got that great Bill Paxton grin that only he could do. And then we've got Jesse and Diamondback going, and they like end up pick up a hitchhiker, but oh no, they're gonna try and rob him. He's like, yeah, yeah, of course you are.
Yeah, you're not gonna be looking so good because they're like, oh, we got to look her here. She looks real good. And he's like, you're not gonna be looking so good when your face is ripped off. So yeah, and they don't even really go into the kills with those. It's just like kind of showing this is how they hunt at night, just random people and good people, bad people. They need to hunt to live. So
And then we get Caleb and May with Caleb's first step trying to hunt, where they end up with like hanging out with a truck driver. And I like this truck driver. He's only in the movie for like 5 minutes, but he's just kind of talking, doing his thing. He's like, "Hey, this is how you speed up in a truck. How you shift. How you slow down."
yeah. And you know it's Chekhov's semi.
Yeah, we'll come back to that.
um, but yeah, so like I think the heart of the story is basically this guy gets turned by these vampires, and it's them trying to convince him to kill to be one of them, and they don't even want him in the group. They actually want to kill him. But they're like, hey, if you prove yourself or whatever, and he proves himself other ways to keep himself alive. He does what he needs to do, but he never loses his humanity throughout the entire film.
hmm And
And
I guess
he,
that's the big thrust of it. And sort of the B, that's the A plot. Then the B plot is that his little sister and his dad they saw him get abducted, so they're out looking for him.
and yeah, there's
He
it's
early on is after he's been with the vampires and it's night, he still doesn't. He knows he's bad, but he just refuses to kill. He just wants to get home, so he tries to get on the bus and then almost like starves and gets off the bus because he's so weak until he kind of comes back to May.
and he was $3 short for the bus, and the cop, a plainclothes officer played by Troy Evans, comes in and loans him $3.
I feel like I've seen Troy Evans in a million things. It's like he's
He's been in over 100 movies, and a lot of times he plays some sort of cop. So
okay. It's like one of those
yes,
characters, actors who's everywhere. Nice.
yeah, I saw him show up for like 2 minutes. I'm going, hey, that guy. I like that guy. He's always showing up as a cop somewhere. It's like
And
he's always
that was
got
a very suspenseful sequence because he's looking at him, he's kind of pointing his finger, then you realize that like he's got a bandage on one hand, and you can kind of see there's some blood on it too. It's like, oh, is he gonna kill this cop? Is he gonna kill this cop?
yeah, and that's one thing is like the whole time you're going, oh, like he gets this. It's almost like like this bloodlust in his eyes, and that's where Pat started a good job with the acting in this is because you could see how he wanted that blood so bad that he wanted to kill for it. But it's like and this is where like it's a disease, but it also plays out like a drug to me. Like it's he unwillingly got on this drug and wants to beat it, and he wants to beat this drug or this disease and it's like this will to not lose yourself.
Yeah, and he's sweating. He feels super weak. It almost is like he's trying to go through withdrawal.
Yeah. And so and then and like I said, it's a sense of family too. Like he wants to get back to his family. His family's looking for him. This vampire brood is almost like a family themselves. And like I said, you're okay with them dying at the end, but like there is some sympathy towards them too.
They're
For
still kind of likable. You kind of like hanging out with them, even though they are absolutely terrible, terrible murderers.
Yeah, because like I said, back to the bar scene with Bill Paxton in that scene. And I don't. Did you watch the interview on the DVD?
Wasn't able to watch any of the interviews. I want to later and watch the commentary too. But
Okay, yeah, I'd be interested in the commentary, but like the interview, Paxton said that he gets migraines or he got migraines, R.I.P. And he said that day that they did that, he woke up with a terrible migraine, and he's like, I need something, and like they gave him a shot of B12. I don't know what that is, like a vitamin
mhm.
or something like that. And he said that he was just wound off of that for that scene then. And you could really tell he's just like he's having the time of his life when there's like the finger licking good. Just hey, yoo-hoo. He just like picking fights with all the people in the bar and just acting crazy. And then, he wants Caleb to kill too. So he really torques off the guy next to him. And when the guy goes to punch him, he throws Caleb in the way and he gets punched. So then Caleb knocks the guy across the room and is like, did I do that? that was pretty great.
That
Uh,
is such a well put together sequence, and then just it's like, yeah, you got to go after the bartender, and then it's just Bill Paxton is just hamming it up, having a wonderful time, and you really enjoy the sequence too. Despite it is, it is horrifying because they are killing these innocent people, but there's such a sense of humor about it because the characters who are doing it are having the time of their lives.
And one of the best parts of that entire sequence is when Bill Paxton gets like another guy starts choking him in the bar, and he's like acting like, oh God, I can't, and then he just like turns towards the other vampires and just kind of has this grin like, this is fun. It's just like so so much fun. And then in the bar,
The bartender has a shotgun.
he has a shotgun, and I thought this was an interesting story. Was Caleb ends up getting shot in the gut with that, and Adrian Pastar in the interview was talking about how this was the first time he'd ever had to use a squib for being shot, and they told him how he was supposed to like the way he was supposed to be breathing in or out or whatever when it went off and all this stuff, and he goes, this is the first time I've ever done it. Like there was a huge squib that like just like went off like right in his gut, and when it goes off, when he gets shot in the scene, you see him like hovering with his hands over his stomach and like leaning forward. He said it literally knocked the air out of him, but he had to continue with the scene. So he was actually for real trying to catch his breath there. But he had to keep going. So like just like he's like he's in pain and about knocked me out. And I was like, that was, and it worked too. And then he's like, "Am I still alive?" So yeah, it's kind of fun watching him like realize the powers that he gets too, and still be able to control those urges and want to keep his humanity.
Because this sequence ends where one guy escapes from the bar, and then he's like, all right, go kill him. Runs after him, catches him, and decides, no, let him go. So even despite all this, he got close, but he never quite loses his humanity.
No, and so then finally they end up at a motel where little Homer finds another little girl at a vending machine, and he's like,
Well,
"Oh,
before that motel, remember there's the other one where they end up where they have a shootout.
oh yeah, yeah."
Because they stop at this motel right as the sun is coming up. Things aren't going super well. And then I like this little bit that, Jesse has like, sees like this old man who's running this motel. And he's like, hey, need one of your bungalows, please. It's like, come on, hurry up. The sun's coming. And then
Yeah.
and then this old man's like, have I seen you before? That I come here through once every 50 years.
Could you hold a reservation for me?
Yeah. So then they end up this, but then because one guy got away, the cops show up.
Yeah, and because the guy got away, they wanted to kill him again. Well, the guy went to the cops and that's how the cops found them. And so, like, this was the part where it's like, well, now he really has to prove himself. So, like, they're stuck in here. The only way to get away is to run out to the van, but
In the middle of the day
in the middle of the day and risk, spontaneous combustion.
while they're getting shot at.
So even though Caleb is the one who ultimately led the cops to them by not killing, he runs to the van and almost sacrifices himself to free them. So they're like, okay, we'll let you live still because you proved yourself here.
And that's kind of when he's finally sort of getting used to the group likes being, and it has a nice scene with May.
Yeah, but again, it was like, how many more times would he have to find ways to almost sacrifice himself because he still refused to kill. I don't think he was. It would take. I think it was just going to take him a long time to finally give into that urge.
That's true because it feels like he's but you're worried for him because he's slowly getting closer. He can only stay out long so much, and he's kind of running out of ways to sort of avoid it.
Yeah. And then they finally get to another motel, like I said, and Homer finds another little girl at the vending machine. It happens to be the little sister, Sarah, and he takes her into the room, and then there's a whole confrontation because the dad is at the motel too. So total coincidence that they end up at the same motel and this happens, but it works. And then there's just a whole scene there, and it's pretty tense because you don't know that there's any sort of cure for this. So you're like, is he going to choose to turn his family? Is or is like, what is he going to do here? And his parent and his dad is like, you've got to come home, and he basically says, no, I can't do it. I I'm with these people now.
Like I'm not a human anymore.
Yeah, but then they have to all get away, and he runs off with the girl and runs home.
And yeah, so then, and as he's sort of finally going back home, when he's still a vampire, in a lot of pain, not doing so hot, his dad like figures something out, gives him a blood transfusion because he knows how to do that because he's a veterinarian.
Yeah. So, and then we find out that blood transfusion works. So there's this whole bit at the end where they come and kidnap the sister again, and so he
And
goes
that's
after
kind of
them.
how it leads to our climax. Now, how is he going to fight these guys when he's just a regular human again?
Yeah, with Chekhov's semi.
With Chekhov's truck, where he runs into Severin, Bill Paxton with this truck. And
Yeah,
Bill Paxton's looking all beat up, not doing so great, but he's still fighting, trying to stop this truck, punching the engine itself.
and he jackknifes it and blows him up.
Yeah, there's our second big explosion for the movie.
And Bill Paxton has got like this makeup where it's like his head is open and there's a gash all the way down his face where just like you know charred off, ripped off, like real gory looking makeup, which was really great. Um and that was another fun um snippet from the interview. He said when he had that makeup on, there was a train apparently that they had to keep waiting to pass while they were shooting, and one time the train stopped and he ran up to the conductor and was like, "Quick, there's been an accident." He goes, and and if I look really bad, you should see the other guy. That he's got like his whole face is a giant gash in it, and his head is opened up from the makeup and everything.
That's
It's like,
amazing. He's just messing with people.
yeah, I was like, that's a horrible thing to do to someone, but it's pretty funny. I bet that guy freaked out, man.
Hmm.
Yeah, it sounds like Lance Henriksen and Bill Paxton had a lot of fun on the set too with this.
That's good. That's good because
Because actually, it wasn't even really a set. Because apparently they were going to film at some set in California or whatever, and there were floods at the time and took out a lot of the stuff, and so they ended up filming like Arizona somewhere. So, but yeah, it was just I thought it was a funny little story that they had.
that is great.
And then then there's the whole confrontation. I don't even remember how it plays out, but
Basically, Caleb is able to rescue his sister. Then they're slowly running back, and as he's trying to get away, as the sun is coming up and up and up, May decides, you know what? If I'm gonna die, I'm gonna do it for the right reason. So then she jumped out there and starts running back towards the home with May as Caleb is running towards it. And Homer's like, "No, May, come back!" And then he explodes. And then there's this great moment with Jesse and Diamondback is like, well, it's been a hell of a ride. And then they slowly keep trying to slowly drive towards Caleb, at least to try and get him before they burst into flames too.
yeah, and they don't even try and like stay out of the sun. They're just I think it's more of a they see that May is willing to sacrifice herself for Caleb, and Homer just blew up, and they're like they're losing their family. So they're like, we've been alive for so long. Like, what is there to why are we going to keep going? So let's just try and run him down and let the sun take us out. Go
Mhm.
out into the sunset.
Yeah, like a western.
Yeah. And then they get a blanket over or a coat or something over May so she didn't end up burning up herself. And so they are able to do a blood transfusion and she gets her life, like her old life, back again. with a new boyfriend.
Oh yeah.
And they're both human. They're not diseased vampires or whatever anymore. So yeah, just wonderful movie, wonderful performances,
What
wonderfully
else?
directed and
Like,
shot.
aren't you glad we kind of were able to find this?
Yeah, I like I said, I've been looking for this a long time, and I'm really glad you had a copy of this because such a wonderful movie. And
Yeah, definitely underseen and underdiscussed, if you ask me, because I had never heard of it till I kind of until last year.
yeah, it's been one I've been seeking out for a long time, but just couldn't get my hands on. And this one should be up there with the vampire greats of the 80s,
Agreed.
even though you never see sharp teeth and you never hear the word vampire. It's funny because even in the truck when the dad gets Caleb and he's taking him home, he's like he never says I'm a vampire or like whatever he's going. I was bit.
Hmm.
It's just I'm not gonna make it. I was bit. So yeah, great movie, and I hope one day this is more readily available.
And also, I wish, I kind of wish that we got more of time to hang out with these characters. But I'm also glad it's just its own kind of perfect little package. 90 minutes tells a complete story, very satisfying to watch.
Yeah, definitely with the performances, it's one. If I could get my hands on it, it's one I could watch every year.
Oh yeah. And also, I would love to see like a video game taking the same basic premise of being like an outlaw vampire.
That would be pretty cool.
That would be so cool.
So anyway, yeah, go check out Near Dark if you can find it.
This has been another one of our big giant size Halloween specials. I love this movie so much.
I agree, 100%, 100% recommend.
Oh yeah.
Uh, um, do you have any kind of double feature you would put with this one?
I don't really know because it's just so weird and different from anything else out there.
I think I would go with. I would actually go with the one that I've mentioned a couple of times is the other 1987 vampire film, The Lost Boys. I think that would be a good double feature.
Let's say I've never seen it. I'll have to check it out.
Yeah, that one's much more readily available.
Oh yeah.
So and actually, honestly, I think this one Near Dark might be better. Um, again, I can't get over Bill Paxton's performances in this,
I know, right? He's having so much fun.
and why is this the Bill Paxton movie I never saw?
I know, right? I
Anyway,
still like Bill Paxton, and I thought even when he's in like a movie that's not great, he's still great in it.
yeah.
Like Twister, not a super great movie, but Bill Paxton and most of that cast is still pretty great.
Oh yeah, for sure. So I even when he shows up as little cameos, like in the first Terminator,
Yeah.
as the punk.
Or he's like the weird older brother in Weird Science.
Yes, Chet.
Of course.
For the longest time, that's who Bill Paxton was to me because I was a big John Hughes fan growing
Mhm.
up, and so he was always Chet, the the jackass older brother, military older brother. So um, anyway, that's that's our Halloween special. Great vampire movie,
Yeah.
and
Don't get bit, pray for Dawn, and stay spooky.
stay spooky. Keep watching them scary movies.
Oh, yeah.
Let us know what you're watching. Comment below,
And
and
don't forget, we're on Twitter.
at AwesomeKM.
And at Noah_Saturn, that is spelled Satern.
And on Instagram at We Don't Know What to Watch.
And I'm going to go do some cool, try and pick up some chicks while hitchhiking with my big belt.
Oh, and I'm going to go not outside at night. Till next time, keep your fangs to yourself.
Oh, yeah. Bye bye.